The way you remove the spider gears is you rotate, so I'm going to do that right now. Rotate one of the spider gears, and you can see I'm pushing on it from behind, and they'll drop. Now, they're going to drop. You can see I've got one of them here. Also, there is a washer. There's a washer on the back of the spider gear. There's two spider gears. Make sure the washer comes with. You have to remove the right side before you can remove the left side. So if you pull, this should come right out now. The axle is removed and the spider gears are removed. You can use the plates or the gear to wiggle it out. You may have to reach around on the back side. They may not all come at the same time. Try and keep everything in order. Alright, so you can see I've got the right side gear out with some but not all of the clutch plates. I'll put it over on the right side of my pan, and then I'll get in here and get the rest of the clutch plates, steel plates, and shims that are used to set the preload. Over to the left hand side. Now you can remove this side, keep everything together. Left side of the pan, make sure you have all the remaining plates and shims. If you get a Ford Racing rebuild kit, it will come with new steel plates and clutch plates that are splined onto these gears. It will come with a new bolt and possibly a new shaft as well. Now, what I'm doing here actually is I'm rebuilding it with from my collection of existing parts. I have other older used steel plates and clutch plates, and because it's a track day car, it's considered regular maintenance. Every year I will rebuild it and select the thickest plates that are available from my collection and then reshim everything to set the preload. And I'll measure what plates I have and what thickness they're at. So you can see here, if I put this in the right spot, we're at 96 thousandths on this plate. 95 thousandths. Excuse me, on the clutch plate. This one's closer to 93, 92. And so I'll measure every clutch plate that I have and select the clutch plates that I have the most material remaining so that I can continue reusing this package. A lot of Trac users, particularly those folks that have quite a bit of extra horsepower than what the original unit was designed to handle, is they'll add an extra clutch plate to increase the torque capacity. The original setup has only 3 clutch plates per side, and they double up on the steel plates, and if you get the Ford Racing kit, you'll see in the instructions they'll give you the layout of how to set up the plates and the clutches. But to increase torque capacity, you can actually go alternate, add in an extra clutch plate, which is what I've done here because this is a track day car, and that's highly beneficial for how I use it. The overall thickness won't change very much at all because the steel plates and the clutch plates are about the same thickness. You'll just use different shims when you put everything back together into the differential. So the setup is immediately onto the back of the gear. Instead of having a steel plate, you put in a clutch plate. And the clutch plate has no splines, you'll notice, but it has these ears that engage the differential. Then there'll be a steel plate which has splines, and that engages the gear. Then you do another clutch plate, another steel plate, another clutch plate, another steel plate, the last clutch plate, and then there will be the shim that goes up against the housing that I'll show you how to select the appropriate shim in the next following steps. So end of the day, we've got 4 clutch plates on each side. Okay, to install the side gears, start by making sure that all of your ears are lined up because they will need to engage the gap in the differential. Just remember the left side will need to go in first since it came out last. Put it in like this and just feel for the gap where these ears will fit in. This could take a few tries to get this lined up. So I'm probably going to edit a lot of this time out of this video. Now we can put the other side in. I have the two thickest shims in there right now. We'll see if that will fit. And then we'll work our way down if we have to. So at this point, I've installed the side gears and the spider gears. I've started the spider gears. You can also see, if I move this up, that I've installed the left-hand axle temporarily so that I can use it to turn the side gear and turn these spider gears into their proper position. So I've selected shims that I think are about right so that the spider gears will just slide into position. To get it started. Alright, so I've started it by hand a little bit further. I think the washer is past the ridge that popped it out the first time. And now okay, so I can get my finger through here, so this spider gear is aligned with where the shaft goes through. And this spider gear is not quite aligned with where the shaft goes through. Let me align this one. And then come back and check this one. Okay, it's not quite aligned, so I'm one tooth off on one of the spider gears. However, I have learned that this is the right shim for the left and right side gears because it just barely goes into place with some resistance. And that will put the appropriate amount of, it'll basically have preload on the clutch plate so that we don't have any slop on there. Now that our side gears and spider gears are in place, our next order of business is to install the axles. The bearing surfaces and seal surfaces you want to protect. Make sure you clean, of course, the axle. Hold it parallel, support it all the way in, and you want to gently engage the splines in the side gears in the differential. So hold keep it centered. Alright, and then you can temporarily rest it and then put a torque back and lift on the studs. And hold that end out there, slowly rotating back and forth until you engage the splines. Boom, axle installed. We'll now install the C-clips. Push them both in far enough that you can engage the C-clips so you can see both ends of both axles. Put your C-clip in and then push the axle out to the outside. Other C-clip. Push the axle to the outside. Once you've got those C-clips installed, the next phase is to install the shaft that goes between them. Or make sure you rotate it to the side that has the hole for the locking pin. Make sure the hole for the locking pin is on the side facing you. Slide it in. You may have to wiggle it a little bit to get everything to fit. Make sure the spider gears are in the right spot. Okay, holes are aligned and it should be flush. Okay, once that's installed, then we can get the locking nut. This guy, install him, torque him down. One other note on the installation, you'll notice that I do not have the S-spring installed that normally goes here. I don't use it because I like the way the car handles without it better on turn entry. However, if you have a street car, you'll want the S-spring for low traction conditions such as snow and ice, rain. It sets a preload on the clutches. So to install that, you can use a small needle nose style vice grips. Use one or two of those to compress the S-spring and leave them, the small needle nose vice grips, clamped on the S-spring. Install the S-spring and then release. And then once that S-spring is installed, then you can install the shaft and proceed with installing the locking pin. We now have the differential fully reassembled, and as you turn the axle, can see everything's functioning smoothly. Differential gears are all turning as you would expect them to turn. At this point, everything's torqued. You can install the rear cover and make sure you go around torquing each bolt multiple times because they do tend to loosen up as you torque other bolts. After that, there's a fill hole on the front of the differential housing where you can put in the oil. I use Mobil 1, so I don't use any friction modifier for my clutch plates. It's not required if you use synthetic differential oil. Poke it into the access hole on the front driver's side until it starts to bleed out, and then you've got a full differential.